Hey guys, before we dive in, I owe one of you a free copy of my book. I told you that for those of you that commented with a predicted finish time for the Tarawera, that I would give a copy of my book to the individual that came closest to predicting my finish time. As you probably know, I got sick and could not finish that race, so instead I just did a random draw from everybody that commented. So stick around to the end of the video and I will tell you who won a free copy of the book. Today I want to talk a little bit about why our stories matter. But right now, I gotta go tell my story. As a professional speaker, I make a living sharing my story and the lessons learned along the way. Last night I had the opportunity to share at a Works for Women event talking about the importance of paying attention to mental health in the workplace. And as always, I was blown away by the dialogue that sharing stories sparked, the ideas, the action items that came out of that. It was pretty incredible. Today I want to talk a little bit about why your story matters and why it's important for you to share your story. You know, I was first introduced to the power of story early in my sales career in my early 20s. I started to realize the power of story to build connection between me and my customers, the power of story to help build trust with my customers. You know, I could rattle off all the data with the product or service that I sold, but it wasn't until I started sharing stories about how I had helped others that I really started to build connection and trust with my customers. As a guy that always likes to understand the why behind the what, I started doing a lot of research into why this phenomenon started occurring. And one of the bodies of work that I came across was by a fellow by the name of Dr. Yuri Hassan, a professor out of Princeton University. I'll link his TED Talk up here, so if you're interested, you can dive more into his work. But he's a communications expert, and more specifically, he dove into the power of story. He coined the term neurocoupling. One of the experiments that he did was he hooked up an fMRI machine, a functional MRI machine, to the brain of a storyteller, a speaker, and that of a listener. And what he found was that the brain activity of the listener started to shift and shape and morph to match that of the speaker. Have you ever had one of those conversations where you just start to feel connected with the speaker, the individual telling you the story that's talking to you? Yeah, well, there's some science behind that. Our brainwave activity, our brain patterns start to actually match and mirror that of the individual telling the story. It's pretty powerful stuff. So let's talk about why your story matters and why it's important for you to share your story. First off, understand that facts are boring. Data is not interesting. Stories are interesting. Let's face it, when's the last time you saw a textbook on the New York Times bestseller list? Yeah, it doesn't happen. Your story can convey a message or a lesson that facts and data otherwise never could. You know, for me, I do a lot of work in the domestic violence arena, and I can rattle off statistics, facts, and figures all day long. But in my experience, when I start talking about statistics, people's eyes glaze over. When instead I shift to sharing the story about how my girlfriend was murdered by an ex-boyfriend back in 2015, people start to pay attention. That inspires action. Facts are boring, stories inspire. Your story creates connection. So we've already talked a little bit about the science behind this. When we tell stories, our brains actually come into alignment. Your story creates connection. And in a world where we are less and less and less connected, this power of connection is increasingly important. As human beings, we are wired for connection. Why not use the power of story to help create that connection? Your story is relatable. You don't have to run 100-mile ultra-marathons. You don't have to run a large business. You don't have to be Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, or Warren Buffett to share your story. Chances are that there's something in your story that others can relate to. You know, we all struggle. All of our struggles are different. We don't have to compare struggles. The important thing is to know that we don't have to struggle alone. And by sharing your story, I can guarantee you will help somebody feel just a little bit less alone in this world. And that, my friend, is an incredibly powerful thing. The fourth and probably most compelling reason why your story matters and why it's important for you to share your story is that ripple effect. You know, whether you think your story is interesting or not, just by you having the courage to share your story will be inspiring to others. I can guarantee it. By you sharing your story, you will inspire others to share their story, causing that ripple effect, causing increased connection. You know, when you share your story, maybe you connect with one person. They share their story, they connect with somebody else. They share their story, they connect with somebody else. And so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. And now, maybe I'm dating myself by using that Fabergé commercial reference, but I think you guys get the idea. Your story matters. So I want to encourage you, whether you think your story is interesting or not, try it out, test it. Take the opportunity, whatever the platform is, get out there, share your story, be bold, be courageous, share your story. All right, my friend, as always, continue to make beautiful shit happen. Have yourself a fantastic day. Take care. All right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, do all the things, hit like, hit subscribe, and I am thrilled to announce the winner of the free book is Jeff Helm. Jeff, if you're watching, shoot me a note. I'll have to see if I can figure out how to get a hold of you and get this thing to you. All right, guys, take care, and we will see you next week.